And an expert lodged the need for a clear roadmap to bring true transitional justice in Ethiopia. Greetings, dear viewers, ladies and gentlemen. This is Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Shifarao Lako. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has appointed Getachew Reda as Chief Administrator of Tigray Region Interim Administration. The office of the Prime Minister has issued a statement about the establishment of the interim regional government of Tigray. The statement says, according to the rule of the land, the Prime Minister has made Getachew Reda responsible for the temporary head of the Tigray region. The head of the interim regional government has been entrusted with the responsibility of leading and coordinating the executive body of the region by structuring an inclusive administration that ensures the representation of various political forces operating in the region, the statement said. The Ethiopian federal government has been executing the ideals of a peace agreement at a time when it was in confrontation with the war with the TPLF during the challenging times. As a major step towards establishment of an interim regional government, the HPR has removed the TPLF from terrorist list after 2 years of conflict. Shagamatov tells you more.
The TPLF had been criticized for long as it was acting against the Ethiopian constitution and hindering the anticipated reform. Its unlawful election and the attack on the northern command of the defense force obliged Ethiopians to suffer from 2 years destructive war. Although the Ethiopian government sent mediators to Mekelle, the city of Tigray region, the TPLF rejected the initiative and waged war against Ethiopians. Luckily, the Ethiopian defense force emerged victorious at the war that lasted 15 days. The federal government called for restoration of peace in the region and set up interim administration in Tigray. However, the TPLF declared another round of war with neighbor regions. The Ethiopian government had been calling for peace talks even during the destructive war.
The Ethiopian government and people's strong desire is never to hear gunshots in Ethiopia. Our desire is to expend the finance to buy medicines and build constructions instead of buying guns.
The TPLF used the government's peace call as an opportunity to buy time and prolong the war. The government had been reiterating for peace talks to stop the conflict.
We don't like fighting. We hate it. I held a gun when I was 14, so I know it. It takes away my friends and brothers. I need development.
The federal government called the TPLF for peace talks without preconditions, realizing the war was unacceptable by Ethiopians. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed explained the reasons for peace talks during the war.
Ethiopia needs peace and reconciliation. They need to work hard and lead their lives peacefully. They also need to shorten the duration of the war and breathe peace air. We will work for the peace of Ethiopians. We don't want to extend the war, but we will restore peace and strive for prosperity.
Finally, the call of the government for peace talk bore fruit, and the two parties signed an agreement to a permanent cessation of hostilities in Pretoria, South Africa on November 2, 2022. As per the accord, the agreements are being implemented on the ground by both parties. The House of People representatives on Wednesday removed the TPLF party in the Tigray region from a list of terrorist organizations, a major step toward establishment of an interim regional government following the end of a 2-year conflict.
Now, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's book Generation Synergy has been promoted to ambassadors of various countries based in Addis Ababa. The international community and invited guests have hailed the Madamar philosophy as it is instrumental for Ethiopia and the entire world. Kasaun Chane reports.
In the presence of top senior government officials at Friendship Square, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's book Generation Madamar, otherwise Generation Synergy, written in English, promoted to ambassadors of various countries based in Addis Ababa, members of the diplomatic community, and invited guests. Madamar and Madamar Journey, two books written by Abiy, have already been published. 3 languages, Amharic, Afan Oromo, and English, are used in the publication of this most recent series, Generation Madamar. Bilane Seyum, the press secretary for the Prime Minister's office, emphasized during the event that the book is essential for any country pursuing sustainable development.
During the book launch ceremony, the Prime Minister has encouraged each regional president to sell the books and use the proceeds of the sales for constructions of various legacy and generation projects like mini stadiums, libraries, parks, and the renovation of natural and historic touristic sites. With an aspiration that spans generations and beckons the healing and prosperous development of Ethiopia, we ask you, our invited guests, to take an active part through your various institutional interventions towards cultivating Generation Madamar. This generation will take the nation and the continent to greater heights. We ask you to order the books in bulk. By doing so, you are placing your print in supporting development projects for the coming generation, and you are also augmenting a reading culture.
For his part, Ethiopia's State Minister for Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Misgana Aragga, emphasized the importance of the book for those who are eager to discuss various development agendas, whether in Ethiopia, Africa, or the rest of the globe.
Excellencies, as you are well aware, shouldering the responsibility of running the affairs of state of a country like Ethiopia is not an easy duty. But what is rather an uphill task is overcoming this daunting job of leading a nation facing many challenges and writing books at the same time. His Excellency, before assuming power, has written 5 books that dealt at length on a host of socio-political affairs of the nation. And after taking the mantle of leading the country, he managed to contribute 3 more books, namely Madamar, The Path of Madamar, and his latest Generation Madamar, which we are officially launching today for the diplomatic community.
It is to be recalled that the proceeds from the sale of the previous 2 books were utilized to fund social services and a building of schools all around the country. Furthermore, the proceedings of the present book will be used to restore historical and tourism attractions in regions, it was learned.
Welcome back. You're still watching Addis News Hour. Now, the World Bank says that it will work closely with the government and the IMF to support the economic stabilization efforts in Ethiopia. The World Bank Vice President for Eastern and Southern Africa, Victoria Kuwakwa, is in Ethiopia on an official working visit. The Vice President started her two-day visit by paying a courtesy call to the Finance Minister Ahmed Shide Wednesday. The minister thanked Kuwakwa for the World Bank's continued support to Ethiopia, especially in delivering much-needed finance in addressing the impacts of overlapping shocks over the last 3 years. Kuwakwa has commended Ethiopia's resilience in dealing with multiple shocks and the government's commitment to economic reform to promote private sector-led development in Ethiopia. Moving on, Ethiopia is ramping up efforts for a comprehensive transitional justice with a view to bringing about accountability to crimes committed during the two-year war. However, any truly remedial transitional justice mechanism should first draw a clear roadmap, according to a legal expert who sat down with our staff reporter, Gosho Maliso. Have a listen to this.
Ethiopia is ramping up for a comprehensive transitional justice with the view to bring about accountability to crimes committed during the two-year war. This mechanism is judicial but also includes reparations through seeking repentance and various kinds of institutional reform. A legal expert who shared his view on the upcoming transitional justice process said a clear roadmap should be set to achieve the anticipated results from the transitional justice before the onset of the process.
In the name of transitional justice, accountability might just vanish in the thin air. So we have to watch. We have to be clear about our roadmap before we start this transitional justice. If we have clear roadmap and if we have clear guidelines, that's not going to happen. If simply we try to go to the route of transitional justice and we forgive each other in the name of transitional justice, that's not gonna bring any peace.
Freyheut expounded that the transitional justice creates a win-win situation to all community.
In case of transitional justice, one of the core points is creating a win-win situation and creating a common narration about our past, because everybody, depending on whatsoever motive, might have different narrations about our past, about past injustice. But at the end, we have to come to a mind setup where we will have common narration about our past.
However, Freyheut underlined that at the end of the day, accountability should be upheld so that the past could be truly reconciled with the future course of direction and people feel justly served.
When we talk about accountability, basically we are talking about that about our past injustice or any abuse, someone should be held responsible for any past human right abuses and injustices, and for all the past serious crimes. Someone should be responsible. And why do we need that? The main reason is that, one of the main reasons is that it is to deter the future human rights abuse, or just to deter the future abuses.
He also recommended more aggressive work on public awareness, especially at the grassroots level, to achieve the intended goal.
Now, China's ambassador to Ethiopia, Zhao Zhiyuan, says the recent visit of the Ethiopian delegation led by Finance Minister Ahmed Shide will further advance bilateral economic and trade relations between Ethiopia and China. In an exclusive interview with the Ethiopian news agency, Ambassador Zhiyuan said that the 10th session of Economic, Scientific, Technical Cooperation and Trade Joint Commission were held with the Ministry of Commerce. This is the first meeting of its kind between China and an African country in 2023, he said. He added it fully reflects the good wishes of the two governments to deepen cooperation and common development. According to the ambassador, the trade volume between China and Ethiopia has continued to increase in recent years, and the channels for Ethiopia to export coffee and other specialty products to China have been continuously smoothed. Sudanese finance minister says the power to be generated from the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam will not only be enough for the neighboring countries but also contribute to the development of the whole region. In an exclusive interview with the Ethiopian news agency, the minister noted that the GERD is going to help Sudan to have enough and cheap energy from Ethiopia. According to the minister, the dam is going to contribute not only to the neighboring countries but also to the development of the whole region. The minister stressed that Ethiopia, Sudan, and Egypt need to think positively and understand each other to find solutions to outstanding concerns and problems.
The 70s Global
It's expected that Ethiopia is Ethiopians
Our news is always aired on Monday to Friday on 11 a.m. and 9 p.m. and also on Saturday and Sunday on 9 p.m. Make sure to follow us.
And now in business, State Minister of Finance Samareta Swaso says the government is committed to supporting and encouraging textile investment activities in Ethiopia. This was disclosed at a discussion she held with the CEO and Managing Director of Koika Africa, Kanoria Africa Textiles PLC, Ashish Agarawal. Both sides agreed to jointly work to attract more investment to Ethiopia and to work for more access to various markets. Kanoria Africa Textiles PLC was officially inaugurated in October 2015 and started its commercial operation in April 2016. The company was established with an investment of $52 million with the lion's share of funding from the Export-Import Bank of India and investors. And now moving to continental news, South Africa continues to use a mix of fossil fuels and renewable energy to generate electricity, despite pioneering the development of a small nuclear reactor. Coal remains the main pillar of electricity generation, but a section of a stakeholder wants the government to urgently address the inclusion of renewable sources. Shagamat Azmonat from CGTN Africa.
South Africa led the way in developing the pebble-bed modular reactor, a safer alternative to conventional nuclear power. After spending $1 billion laying the foundation of PBMR, the project was dumped by the state in 2010 due to financial constraints.
There's been private companies, most notably in the US and Germany, that's taken this technology forward and sort of got it to the place where they're almost ready to roll it out and to bring it into full-scale production. They probably need another 5 or 10 years before it will be commercially available to roll out across the rest of the world.
Despite global development, there are no plans to restore the PBMR.
I'm not sure if we are planning to revive modular reactors. What I know is that in the IRP 2019, there is provision for 2,500 megawatts of nuclear power. And that plan is underway. We'll need to increase our capacity on nuclear. That is number one. Number two, we're working flat out on extending the life of Kobe Power Station by another 20 years.
South Africa has turned to renewable energy as it scrambles to plug a power crisis. Coal remains the main pillar of electricity generation, but wind, gas and solar will drive the transition to a low-carbon economy.
South Africa should treat the energy issues as an emergency, not as an incremental change. South Africa has innovated in renewables, lowering the cost of renewables, auction markets, reverse auction markets, and so on. So the knowledge is there. But I believe you've not treated it as an emergency.
Across the continent, meanwhile, the electricity need is dire. 600 million Africans still live without power. Recent oil and gas discoveries, especially in Namibia, could change Africa's fortunes and strengthen energy security on the continent.
And finally, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres urges UN member states and governments to recognize and act upon the vital importance of water to the world's sustainability and to foster peace and international cooperation. He made this remark at the UN 2023 Water Conference held in New York. Here is what he said.
More than a conference on water, it is a conference on today's world, seen from the perspective of its most important resource. This conference must represent a quantum leap in the capacity of member states and the international community to recognize and act upon the vital importance of water to our world's sustainability and as a tool to foster peace and international cooperation. From water as a key driver across economies and policy making, to the recognition of water and sanitation as a human right, from the integration of water and climate policies to an innovative approach in the use of water in food production, now is the moment for game-changing commitments to bring the Water Action Agenda to life.
You have been watching our News Hour. Now, a quick recap of the top stories. Prime Minister Abiy appoints Getachew Reda as Chief of Tigray Region Interim Administration. And an expert lauds the need of a clear roadmap to bring true transitional justice in Ethiopia. Well, viewers, with that, we come to the end of today's news. Thanks a lot for watching us. Bye-bye.